Hello, hello, hello. It's 2025. How does this happen, right? Welcome everyone to our webinar, first webinar of the year.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah,
Happy,
we
happy.
see all of you guys just trickling in. So thanks for joining us this in our January webinar.
Yeah, it is January. It is a little cold where I'm at, but all is good. So let's see. They're just kind of rolling in right now. We'll give you guys a second to make it in. Few reminders as you join our webinar. I know many of you have come to these before. Some of you it might be your first time. So this is Zoom webinar, a little different than Zoom meeting. Instead of using a chat, we use the Q&A. So make sure you have that Q&A popped open for yourself, because not only if you ask questions, but if other people ask questions, the answer will appear for all of you to see in the answered section of the Q&A box. So nice thing to have open. Please use that. Please ask questions. We love questions. It makes us know that you're engaged and you're interested in what we're talking about, which is always the goal. But with that, let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and just get started. We record these. We always record these. We'll have the recording available on our webinar page within 24 hours, and you will get a follow-up email with a link to that page so you can come back and watch this over and over again if you'd like. All right. So this is our January topic. It's kind of been our January topic for the third year in a row, which is about fund distributions, funding applications. For many of our United Way customers, this is the time of year a lot of you go and do what we call the agency application process and have people apply for funding, have your evaluators come and evaluate it and score it and distribute the money. Now, non-United Ways, there's a lot of funding applications that go on throughout our system, from rent and utility assistance to things like disaster relief and childcare assistance and all sorts of different ones. So we'll go through and we're going to show a bunch of samples and talk about that today. That is our topic. All right. Um, so our team for this webinar, Jordan, myself, I'm Allison, will be presenting today. We got Chrissy and Brian on as well. Chrissy also is account manager with us, and she'll help answer questions, as well as Brian, who's our account executive. This is my moment of Brian plug, who also does our sales things. And you're going to that conference coming up, aren't you, Brian?
Yep. Yep. So if anyone's going to be in Great Rivers in a couple months, I can't believe it's basically less than 2 months out. I will be there. Come say hello. In Madison, Wisconsin. So looking forward to that. And then of course, if anyone is not a customer and needs services, my information's there. I'm really easy to get a hold of on our contact us page. And if you do have any partner agencies or anything like that that need a little TLC, under that contact us page, there's also a refer a friend as well. So make sure that you refer them over so we can give you credit.
We love referrals, and we thank you for those.
Yes.
Several of you are here because of a referral, so that's kind of cool. All right, here's our agenda for today. We've started this tradition of a question about know your audience. We're going to ask you guys a couple questions. This is when I ask you to pay attention and take a quick poll question, see where you're at. And we'll tell you some did you know, some things you may or may not have realized. So since we're talking about the application process, we're really kind of focused on web forms in general for this webinar. So we're going to do a showcase of some of the applications, some of the web forms, kind of the process. So I'll do my little show and tell of all these samples, including some of your sites. And then we're really excited about this last bit here. Jordan's going to take the lead on this. We put together a document. So surprise, surprise, you're going to get a present at the end of this. It's like a 4-page document of all these things about web forms. And so she's going to go through it with you, like settings, elements, the different things you can add, things to know. So it's really going to be like a wealth of information, kind of drink it in, but we're going to give you a document at the end of this. So we'll send it out with the webinar tomorrow. So you'll have that. So that's kind of cool stuff. Oh, let's do our poll question. Know your audience. All right, take a look at your screen. You should have a poll question. There's two questions on here. The first question is about, and you can check as many of them as you like. Which of the forms do you use? One each web forms. Which of these are you actively using right now? So check any of the forms that you're actively using. And then the second question on the bottom is kind of rate your web form knowledge. Like a 10 is like, I'm good at web forms. I got it. I got it. I got it. 0 is, I don't know what a web form is. So hopefully no one's, well, we got a few of them. Like, so rate yourself. Yeah, flip flop it if you're like, looked at it backwards. 0 is, really don't know anything about web forms, to 10 being, I'm really good at them. See where you guys fall. So this is our little interactive piece. We're almost done. You guys are doing a great job participating. Thank you so much. We love to see your results. All right, 100% participation. You all answered my questions. Woo, that's think of first.
What a great start to the
No,
beginning of the year.
Let me share those results with you so you can see. So about 63% of you on this are using the funding applications, so that's good. Hey, and if you have really questions about that or things you want to point out that you do that you're proud of, please share that with all of us. We like to share what each other does. Some of you are doing the reporting, the quarterly reporting, using the evaluation forms, scholarship applications, nominations, a lot of events. So next month is our event registration webinar. So I'll show a couple of event forms I think I have in here, like Day of Caring, but we're really going to focus on events next month and allow you to do the pledge cards. So I have at least one person who's excellent. Cool. At the web forms, and you guys are just kind of all over the map. More of you are towards the bottom half. Oh, well, all right. Well, we'll hopefully get you there. Little warning, when we do these webinars, we throw a lot of information at you. That's why we record them. You can come back and watch them. We are going to have a document that's also going to be helpful. But ultimately, when push comes to shove on these, you have account managers, which is something I think that makes One Each a really special environment as far as a website provider, because you can meet with me or you can meet with Chrissy or Christina, whoever your account manager is, and we can help you. So, and we love web forms, don't we, Chrissy? Chrissy, we love web forms. She's cleared out there. She's watching, but
yes, we do.
We do. We talk web forms a lot. So in the web form world, a couple things to know. When you're setting up a web form for people to complete, did you know that there is an option for a preview of the form for the person filling it out? So they fill out the form. You can turn an optional preview button on where they can click it if they want to look at the results or not, or you can require them to preview it. Kind of like say, you're not hitting submit until you look at this first and you make sure you did it right. Because in our web form world, once it's submitted, it's submitted. They can't go back and edit it. So preview is a really good option to do with web forms. And a lot of times, especially a more complex web form, you might want to make that preview required. Like they can't submit it until they at least take a look at it. So that's a good tip. Auto replies, and I know Jordan's going to do some stuff on this. The auto reply element, I know many of you know in our web forms, we can have conditional questions like if they say yes, then they get another question, or if they answer this, then they get another question. Well, auto replies can be conditional too. So if someone says, I'm interested in information on sales, we make sure Brian gets that email. And if someone says, I'm interested, I need to talk to my account manager, and I make sure like Chrissy or I get that email. So we can have the auto replies, the messages automatically go to certain people based on answers to questions. And that's kind of a cool thing to do. And you can also customize the auto reply. You can actually pull a few fields in there, like their name can be in the message. Hey, Allison, thank you for signing up for the thing. This is your information. And it could even tell them some little details. So there's a lot that can be done with auto replies. Files. If you didn't know this, there are file upload options in web forms, meaning I just saw a web form someone did and they're like, hey, upload a picture of you at an event. You know, you want to get feedback from maybe an agency if they're active in the community and you'd like to have real local pictures about what people are doing. Upload pictures, upload 990s, 501c3s, documents, that kind of stuff. And our files, when they get uploaded into the back end of our system, are private files, meaning that it's just not public for everyone. You have to have a login to access them, which is what you have. So it gives a level of security to file uploads. And then web forms are a component. So what that means is when you build a web form, that's something that can be placed on any page on your site. So let's just say you have a simple little contact us form. You could take that little contact us form and you could place it on every page on your site separately or like 5 pages on your site, but it's one form. So since it's a component, you can take one web form and place it multiple places throughout your site by adding it as a component. And that can be kind of a handy thing too, because then you just have one data set because it's one form. All right. Is there a question that came in? Oh, okay. That's a comment. We use
Right.
forms to submit receipts to the account receivable accountant. That's awesome. So,
Mhm.
yeah, so the receipts are coming in and it's going to go to accounts receivable. I have someone else who does something like that. I don't think it's a sample of one of my forms, but like if you do a funding application and you want them to say how they use that money and they need to upload receipts, that kind of thing, or they need to get reimbursed. That's a good one. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go ahead and do the showcase. I do have a bunch of samples up. So bear with me as I go through and show you what people are doing. My goal with these showcases is always just to be an idea generator for you. You might look at this and go, oh, that's a great idea, and I should do that. Book with your account manager will help you out. So since this topic was basically based on the funding application process, let's talk that through first, and then I have a bunch of other forms as well. So one of the steps in the funding application process, and I love United Way of Davidson County. If you were on this webinar last year, Christy actually joined us and talked about her process. She does a lot of pieces to her application process. But one thing she does that I think is great, and I have several do it, is they ask for people to volunteer to be reviewers. So this is actually a volunteer application. So before you're really doing your funding process, hey, who wants to come and review these with us? Because one of the beauty of this application process is the community is having a say in what these agencies are doing or what these organizations are doing or your scholarship applications or whatever the application is. So they have an application form, they have a training that they require, expectations, and then people sign up to actually do this, which it's amazing. She gets like 60 volunteers, which I'm always very impressed that you get people to do that, which is awesome. So an idea there. So then you go into the whole application process. I got a couple of landing pages for the application process because in most cases in our application process, typically you're going to want the user to have an account in your website. Why? Because then they can save draft, they can come back and finish it, they can see past year's applications that way as well. So it will require them to create a login. This is our pretty common standard landing page. This is what I call the public facing page if you're doing an application process. Has just a basic blurb, and we clone this to sites all the time. One of the things you see here is that it mentions an instructional video. Usually someone from our team will record a video for you, or sometimes the customer does if you're comfortable with it. And all that video is going to be like, this is how you create an account, and this is how you log in, and this is how you save draft, and this is how you come back. So the goal when you're doing these application processes is that your phone's not ringing off the hook because people are confused and don't know what to do. I think having an instructional video is a really good idea for any application that's complex. If you need help with that, our team can help you with that. Then you have, you know, your typical, you gotta log in, you gotta create an account, reset password. We'll go through all that stuff. So this would be the public facing page. The application is not available here. Why? Because they can't see it until they log in. You need it in a secured login environment so they can save draft. So that's an important note. Here's another landing page for an application. This one's actually for the child care. I think it's an ARPA grant. So this one has more details. But when push comes to shove, it has some of the same stuff. Login application, details, log in here, reset, and here's our video link, save draft, frequently asked questions. So your landing page could be pretty simple like that first one you saw there, or it could be a bit more complex like the one you see here. Here is another landing page for a grant application. This is for disaster relief from St. Vincent de Paul. They're a national organization, so again, they have a link to watch their video on how to apply. Here's the login. So they used buttons instead of links, so I just thought it was just a different look at it. How you style it's up to you, you know, have pictures, have buttons, but you definitely want a forward public-facing page that explains your application process and guides them through how to do it. Okay, so depending on your organization, I know a lot of our organizations do a two-part application. First, they do a letter of intent, and this often is not secured, like you have to log in first. It's usually a it's usually a simpler form that doesn't require them to set up an account. It's just saying, hey, I do want to apply for funding, and here's some information about my program. Oh, note that on our a lot of our questions, you can limit characters. You can limit it by characters, or you can limit it by words. So 2,000 characters, it might be like 200 words. I don't know. Uploads like you see here, and then if they have audited financials, a lot of these things too will have conditionals. So if they say yes, then it's like, what's the date of it? Upload that. If they say no, those won't appear. And at least the date of it wouldn't appear. And then signature blocks are also very handy. So this one isn't under a required login. They get the letter of intent, they review the letter of intent, then they invite folks to come and apply. So not everyone does the two-step part, but several of you do. So then our application, and I do want to point out, like this application and even the letter of intent I just showed, there are stock versions of them that we've gotten basically from our customers who've said, yeah, this is kind of the standard. And then if you are in need of these, we can clone this to your site for free. So any of these ones that are showing here in my one each website as a sample are available for you to have. You just have to let us know, and you can submit a support ticket and request the letter of intent application, the agency application. So this one's 3 pages long. This again is the stock one. So the cool thing about this is if you can change it. Like this is just a placeholder starter, right? So your general agency information, mission statement, your contact names. I just got a request from someone the other day who apparently watched one of our past videos and asked me to add this fundraising and administration section to their application that they had, which I was easily able to do. This is something that some people want and some people don't want, but it's asking them to go to their 990 and figure out the percentage, their administrative percentage based on their numbers on there. So I might have to capture to go to the next page. Page 2 would be a program information page. Some will have the categories, again, word limits, indicators, uploads, budgets. Do you have a second program? Yes, no. Everyone does this a little different. Some will want one application from each organization with all the programs in it. Others will want a separate application per program. So it depends on how you're reviewing them. If you're reviewing them very much by like an impact area or a category, you might need them separated by program. If you're reviewing them by agency, then one for the agency might work. these are conversations that we have all the time, and we have samples of this. So if you're not really sure what might work for you or how you've been going about it, please talk to us. We can help you with it. And then the last section on this one is uploads. So this is a pretty standard looking application. I've seen them be a lot bigger and I've seen them be shorter. So it's customizable. Talk to us if you need help with it. And one of the things about the agency application I really like to point out is this doesn't have a year on it. And there's a tendency to go agency application 2025. Well, here's the thing that's really great about them logging in and doing an agency application. There is a setting that when they log in next year, you can pick which fields pre-populate from the last submission. So their name, their mission statement, that stuff, maybe even the program name, program description, but you can uncheck and say, no, I don't want the amount requested to pre-populate, or I don't want their board of directors list to pre-populate, or I don't want this to pre-populate. So you can pick and choose which fields actually pre-populate. But if you clone this for 2026, you can't do that because there's no results because it's a brand new form. So the best practice with a lot of these applications is to reuse the same one year after year, unless you have major form changes, in which case you might need to like start fresh. But if you want to give your organizations who are applying the ability to actually have their form pre-populate with past data, you need to use the same form. So just keep that in mind as you're doing this stuff. It comes in really handy. Your organizations will thank you for it. Oh, greatest challenge that comes for organizations is they forget their username and password. Our system lets them create whatever username they want, which good news, bad news, but they never remember it. They'll put spaces between their name and that'll work, like the Salvation Army. If that's what they made as their username, that's their username. But then when they go to log in, they use their email because they think that's their username, they get lost. So our system will, when they reset their password, will tell them what their username was. So we can help you with all of those things. That's kind of the trickiest thing that our agencies tend to have when they come back year after year, is remembering what their username was or how to reset their password. So we're here to help with that. But use the same one and then it pre-populates. And if they have turnover, like someone leaves, we can, on the one each team on our back end, we can adjust the login user to the new person so that they can still see past applications. So that's pretty cool stuff. All right. So we go through the application process. Now we have our allocations process. The allocations team is going to score these. So we also have a stock rating form. I've seen this rating form so many different ways, I can't even begin to tell you. But where a rater can come in and review applications. Let me show you this slide. This is a good one. I'm actually logged in to show this because it's behind a wall. So for United Way of Washington County, when their allocations team logs in, they automatically will land on this page, which is a welcome to our allocations portal. Here's their, and they break them up into panels. That's common. We do see that a lot. Like you might have committees who are responsible for reviewing certain applications. Here's links to those applications so that they can come and view them. They'll just open in a tab. You don't have to print anything. You don't have to print anything. They log in, they view it digitally on the computer screen, and then they come to the bottom and then they score them. So they're going to say, oh, I'm in panel 1. Great. Which one are you scoring right now? I'm scoring this one right now. And then they come and rate them. This is a pretty involved rating application. So this has a score, how much are they requesting? They actually have it. I think this one calculates like a recommended amount. So there's a lot of things that can be done in these. There's math formulas that can be created. So they score them on a scale of like 1 to 6. It totals up your points. Recommended funding is going to calculate based on the total. Would you fund them? Do you have any notes? So they do these one at a time for the agencies they're scoring. And this is all behind a secured login for the allocations portal. This is something that it takes a little bit to set up, but It's still better than printing binders of applications. I'm going to tell you that. And in most cases, and I know I always hear my allocations members are older and they're just not comfortable with it. It's 2025, folks. I think most people can handle this process. And if not, we can certainly help you guide them. We can do an instructional video for them as well. Certainly done that too. Okay. A few more samples out here. Our quarterly report, that's another thing. So now the application process has happened. You might want them to come back and report. So they'll use their same login. They come back, they'll possibly do reporting, maybe quarterly, maybe semi-annual, maybe annual, depending on how you set this up. The reports, this is our stock one. These are, the reports can have all of these demographic questions like by county, what were your numbers, by race, age, gender, ask them to provide impact numbers or number of people who were served during that time, accomplishments, etc. So this is one I've also seen them, yeah, upload your receipts that from how you spent the money during that time frame for that work. So this is a stock one. We can share it with you if you are in need of something like that. All right. Emergency food and shelter program, also a common one through the government, asking for funding. This one's relatively, so if they're doing shelter funding, then it's, you have specific questions for shelter funding, utility assistance. We do see a number of utility assistance, rent assistance type of forms that people submit applications for. So the good news is if we've done this with a customer, if we have these forms, we can save you a lot of work and clone these over to you. So make sure you talk to us. Yeah, this is the EFSP application. And then this is the EFSP ARPA. I don't know, really remember what that stands for, but I've had a lot of people doing this. Yeah, similar. There you go. Disaster relief funding applications. We've had those as well. Hopefully you're not in an area that's been affected by a disaster, a tornado, a hurricane, fires, all of that. But there are forms that can be used. We've seen this done a lot where we ask, you are responsible for distributing money, so you can have a form process for that. All right, another, oh, stuff the bus. So this one, this one just came up today because they were working on it. But an application like you do stuff the bus program, and now you need to distribute the stuff. So we've seen forms like this. So this is shifting off of the application. These are just other web forms that I have up to share with you. Think about things like that. How many students at the school, like what do you need school supply wise so that we can get this ready for you? Yeah. And Toys for Tots registration by kids. We've had some complicated ones over the years with Christmas wish lists, with pant size, clothing size, all of that kind of stuff. Other ways that you can use the form, definitely for distribution of things. I'm going to crank through these a little quicker. Employment applications, day of caring applications. Next month, we're talking about events. So we'll do a little bit more on day of caring and that stuff during that time. Volunteer registration. Application for services. This is for getting meals delivered to your house. Meals on Wheels applications. So we've seen these web forms. They're so spectacular. There's a lot you can do. Churches, member registration at a church. This one is actually very beautiful. What groups do you want to join and per child, and you add each additional kid, each additional spouse, what do you want to enroll in, all of that good stuff. Nominations for awards. This is a volunteer award nomination. Scholarship applications, have had a lot of those over the years. They have to upload a letter of recommendation, a transcript. And then, okay, so this is our support site. Yeah. So if you do want to ask for any of those web forms that I showed, the stock ones, you can submit a ticket and request them here, which is support.oneeach.com. But I also want to point out here that we've done this webinar a couple times. And so what I didn't do this time is I didn't go into the really fine details of building some of those forms. I more showed you ideas because we have them recorded. So I want to show you where they're at. Basically, when you come to our support site, if you click into the articles, this gets you to our knowledge base, and all of our recorded webinars are out here by year. So we're about to have 2025 up there. The one 2 years ago, honestly, complex applications part 1, that was building the application itself. And part 2 was about the allocations process and reporting. So they are very heavy detail on like how to build the form and how to set them up. And they're still very valid. So they're out there. Also out there under the one called Creating Complex Online Forms. That's the one we did last January. And we had Christy from United Ways of Davidson County give her whole detail on her entire process that she's been doing. And that's pretty fascinating to watch because she's really been doing it a long time and has quite a setup. She's the one that had the volunteer request form that I showed at the beginning. So I just want to make you aware that those are out there for you to look at and or reach out to us. So with that being said, I'm going to stop share because I'm going to switch it over to Jordan. Have we had any questions come in?
Let's see. Nikki said, not a question, but it looks like is excited. Said this is just what we need. Quarterly, biannually reporting. Nice that this one exists. And yes, as Allison mentioned, if there are any of the forms that you saw that said one each on the website, those are all free. We've created them all. We can clone them over to your site just through a support ticket. We'll send out maybe we can include links to all the ones that we showed in the follow-up email that goes out today. So if you weren't sure what exactly that one was called or you wanted to look at them a little more closely, you can take a look there and then submit a support ticket that way.
Okay. And I'll answer, I'm going to answer the other one as well, but just that pre-population is kind of a cool piece on the applications. Like, and there is a setting on the back end, we'll talk about it in the setting sets, but it's a box you check to allow it to auto-populate with the past submissions. And you pick which fields pre-populate, so they do see what they did last time. And they can change it too. So they're not stuck with it. It's just like, hey, this is what you said your address was last year. And they go, well, it's not my address this year. Well, then change it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Awesome. And before I jump right in, Amber, I see your question. We've been researching grant software opportunities. This is exciting. Is there an extra cost to implement this? No, web forms are built right into your website, which is awesome because it's such a powerful tool. There are tons of different settings that you can do. So you already have the capabilities to do a lot of this on the site. If you need extra help and support and you just would prefer that our team build it, set it all up, then you can run into some site maintenance costs. But for the most part, if we've got the form built, we can move it over to your site. So you have that there. You can meet with your account manager. All of that is included in the support that you receive as a OneEach customer. So yeah, if you've been looking at other softwares, please reach out to your account manager and see what you already have with your website. Okay.
I got Jen. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like we can pause for a minute if we need to. We can also make sure we touch on questions as they come in at the end too. All right, I am going to share my screen. We did mention at the beginning of this webinar that we would have a document, a checklist to hand out. That's been something we've been trying to get out to you guys at least once a quarter. I know sometimes we send them out with our newsletters that go out, or we try to have something on the webinar. We thought this would be helpful for those of you that maybe you rated yourself a 1 or 2 on that to get to know your audience poll that we took at the beginning of this webinar. You're just diving in. This form walks through a ton of different settings and areas within web forms to help one, let you know what is possible, what are your options when it comes to web forms. And we're going to point out where those are today, so that if you weren't aware, you can at least know where to go check them out, or know when you reach out to your account manager, what you're interested in learning more about. So this web form checklist will go out in the follow-up email as well, so you'll get access to this, but we are just going to walk through this. I'm going to do a little side by side here so we can see the form and we can see our demo site. So we have the form categorized into different sections. The first one is all about web form settings. So the first thing I'm going to do on our demo site is just get into where the web forms are located on the site. That is always under structure and then web forms. These are all of the web forms, and this will be specific to your website. So you'll see all of the web forms that you have created on your site. I am just going to jump into the agency application form just to get into one. So you have the ability to name your web form. If you remember, we said our recommendation is to never put the year of the agency application. So take those years out if you have a year in. If you are in the settings tab, under general settings here, there is the ability to change that title. So if you already named it, you can go in and you can adjust it and remove that year. This way you can reuse the same application year over year. You can do the save draft. You can do the autofill with previous submission data, which is really helpful. Additionally, there is also the place to put a description in on your web form, and that's this field right below. It's this administrative description, and this is not user facing. So people that are coming to your site and filling out web forms, they're not going to be able to see this description. It is just for the website admins, and this will show, let me go back here. If you're on your web forms, your main web forms page, there is a description column here, and this description will show right here if you were to add it. So if you have multiple web forms that maybe have the same name, maybe you're cloning the same web forms for, what am I thinking? Pledge cards, maybe, and they all are titled pledge card, but you want a little description in there to note differences between them. This is a great field to fill out if you need. As you can see, we've got a few descriptions in there as we need them as well. Along with that, there is also a category option. I haven't seen this used too much, but it is an option for you out there. If you want to try and categorize groups of web forms, you can do that as well. If you choose the other option, you can type in your category. So if this is all pledge cards, you can create that category and then start tagging your web forms to that category. That will also show up on that main page as well under the category. And you'll see these options too when you go to create a brand new web form. So when you hit that add new web form button, you'll have that administrative description and then the category option as well. So you'll see that those can be edited and changed at any time.
I think the category is helpful. Some of you have a lot of web forms and it'll help you sort them.
Okay. Web form URL. The other thing that I don't know, I think most of you know, but if you are new to web forms, one thing that you might not know is you automatically get a URL assigned when you create that web form. And it is usually /form/ whatever the web form name is. And that can get really long sometimes, especially if the name is is quite long. So you do have the ability to change this. You can customize what this says. So it's a little easier to find, or if you're linking out to it on any marketing material, you can change that name to be very specific. And that's done under settings and the general. And it's this field right here, web form URL alias. An alias is what you'll see is the page name, that /form/ web form name is referred to as the URL alias. So if you wanted to have it just be very simple, maybe this is just, if we're doing a pledge card, maybe it's pledge, or maybe it's a keyword or an acronym for the form that you're filling out. So you can customize what that URL alias is. Next on the list is the ability to schedule your web forms out. This is under the, again, all of this is under settings. This time we're going to move to the form settings. And there are a few different areas that you can schedule your web forms out, but right at the top, if you know that this is an application and you're working on this web form now and you want it to open, right at midnight on a specific day, and it needs to close at a very specific time on a specific day, you have the option to schedule that form and put in your open and close dates. So I can make a form open, next Monday at 12 p.m. and maybe it's only open for a week or for the 5 days. I can have it close at 11:59 p.m. on that day. So they have all the way up until midnight to fill that out. And then what I think is really neat is that you can then put some messaging in there. So before the form is open, you can put a message in here that says something like, this form is not open yet. Please come back on this day and time and the form will be open. So if you get people coming to it beforehand, you can put some messaging in there. You can also put a closed message in there. So once the form is closed and users come to fill out the form, you can have a message in there explaining that the form is now closed. If they need, to contact someone, they can reach out to this person. So you can put some details in here for your users.
And just a quick note, go close forms that aren't active.
Yes.
Just click closed. Because you might get random submissions by bots or whatever. Close forms that aren't active.
Yes, definitely. Good reminder there. There is also, we talked about this in the Did You Know, the form preview. So the ability to let a user review their response before they actually submit that form. That is also in the settings, form settings. There's lots of settings in here, but we're focusing on some of the ones that we see used the most or that we think are maybe the most important to note as you're getting started.
Keep going. There it is.
Form preview settings. So you can set this as disabled if you don't want them to have that option, or you can set it as required if you do. You can put in labels. These are the button labels that they'll see or a little message, but you can also just click the button, the required button, and then they'll be able to preview that submission.
They'll have to.
Yeah, they'll have to.
Because once it's submitted, it's submitted. That's an important note.
Yes, maybe you could even put that in the preview message so that they know they cannot go back. All right. We also talked a lot about saving drafts, especially on those complex forms. If you have someone that's creating an account on the site in order to access the web form, the benefit of doing that is that it lets them save a draft of their submission. So if it's quite a long form, you're asking for a lot of information, it is helpful to give them the ability to save the draft, go find more information, bring it back, and keep filling that out. And that is all set up under the submission settings. So under submissions, we want to come down to, I think I opened this up. Submission draft settings, and you'll want to make sure authenticated users is selected. An authenticated user is anyone that can create, they're a known user on your site. So they've set up an account, they've had to verify via email that they are who they say they are. They're not an anonymous user, which would just be anyone that can access your website. They have to log in and access a form. So you'll just want to set that to authenticated users, and that will give them the ability to save a draft as they're working on that form. Next up was the web form autofill settings. So if you are reusing the same form year over year, there is the option to have those all those fields autofill. And as Allison mentioned, you have the ability to turn on individually what fields you want to autofill. So right here in this form, we've got a little message saying, welcome back. We've pre-populated this. And then if you open up the autofill elements here, right now we have everything checked. But if you needed to, you could go in and just select the elements that you want to autofill. And this has every single question on the whole form. So you can, be very generous and autofill everything for them, or you can just autofill a couple of things there.
And even if it's autofilled, they can change it.
Yes. All right. Next up on our checklist is all about the confirmation messages. This is in the confirmation settings. And there are quite a few options that you'll see in here as a confirmation type. By default, we have page set, which means they'll submit the form and they'll land on another page on your website that will have you can type in a message to the user, a nice confirmation message. The other one that I see, not as common, but that I do see get used is this URL one. So if you are needing them to go somewhere else after they hit that submit button, you can redirect them to a different URL, either on your site or maybe it's another site. So that is an option if you're trying to send them somewhere else after the form, you can set that up. But for the most part, page is what you'll need to give a nice confirmation message. So underneath, you'll have confirmation settings, and this is where you can type in a nice title and a nice message. And you do have more space than this as you keep typing. That will grow, it will get bigger, and you can have some nice formatting tools in here to make a nice thank you message. Okay, and then auto replies. This was also in one of our Did You Knows with the example of reaching out to different people based on what someone submits in the form. So under the email and handler option within settings, you can have multiple emails here. And I did set an example up, and I'm actually going to go to that form here. This is just a, I didn't pull it up. Hold on. I did it on our contact form.
There you go.
So on our contact form, I added a quick question with just department. So if they want to get a hold of maybe someone specific in a specific department, or they know they need to reach out to this area, and this can be really any option here. But let's say if they had selected option 1, we want this form submission to go to a specific person, and we want to email the person that filled out this form a very specific message based on what they answered here. And we can do that within the settings of the form and in the email and the handler settings. When you are adding a new email, I like to, this title is an internal title. It's what's going to show up right here when you fill this out. I like to be very specific if I can. So if this is going to be an internal form submission, internal email, I'll put that. Or if it is a external, meaning this is going to the user that's filling out the form, I'll try and label that just so that at a glance I know what they are. So you do have those options. We can say this is sending to a custom to email address. So if we need this to go to someone specific, we can set that up. But if we also want to use the email field on the web form, we can email whoever or whatever that email address is as well. And then there is conditional logic on all of these forms too. So if this email that goes to the user, we can add a condition here that says if all of the following is met, and I can find my department question and say if department value is option 1, then this email will get sent out, and we can have a very specific message when we're setting up the email handler. So these are options. We know that there's options when building out the form. You can put that conditional logic in, but you can also carry that over in all of the emails that get sent out once that form gets submitted, whether it's going to the person that filled out that form, or if it's an email going internally to someone within your organization so that they know someone submitted this form and they need to reach out. Again, handlers, this is also within the settings of a web form. There's email handlers, and there are a couple for the option checkbox limit. This is a big one. If you are doing any type of volunteer sign up and there's only 10 volunteer slots available, you can actually set that limit behind a checkbox so that once that option is selected 10 times, it either disappears from the form or it grays out so that it no longer can be selected. And that way you're only showing live volunteer spots. Or if it's a product that someone's ordering and you only have 100, you can set a limit behind that. We also have a Stripe handler, which just means we have the ability to do a Stripe web form or a donation web form. This does take a little bit of setup, so if you need either one of these handlers enabled, just reach out to your account manager and they can help get you set up. And then lastly in this section is the access settings. If you are rewatching our complex web forms part 1 and 2, you'll see this covered in a little more detail, but this is where you'll set up who can actually submit on the form, who can view those submissions. If you are creating a complex form, we want to make sure that only authenticated users are allowed to create web form submissions or submit on that form. But there's lots of settings here. You can decide who can view them, who can delete them, and who could submit. Okay, building the form in this section. This is under the Build tab. And there are quite a few different elements. So when you are building web forms out, you use something called web form elements. And you'll see an Add Element button here. If you have not already done so, which I haven't here, you'll see a Show Preview button here. And if this is not checked, I highly encourage you to click on this, especially if you're new to forms. But when you click Show Preview, it will show you a preview of what every single element looks like before you add it to your form. So this will let you get an idea of maybe which element you want to add to the form. You can see what they look like. You can move them around and interact with the elements. There's quite a few different elements that you have the ability to use. We don't have time to dive into all of them today. We could do probably a whole separate hour just on all the different web form elements, but some of the common ones that we see are Flexbox layout, as well as field set. Those are more styling elements. They'll let you group like elements together or place them side by side. Text field is for a single line answer. Text area gives someone a little more space here. There are some differences between select, radios, and checkboxes. And I do like to point that one out. So let me drop down to those. As you can see, there's quite a few elements. So checkboxes and checkboxes other, these let the user select more than one option. So it is important to keep that in mind. This gives the ability to select more than one. The radios, those are the circles. This is a only one option. I cannot select more than one. So this is just a one choice option.
Click another.
Oh, or the other will automatically pop down a text field for them to type in if they don't see their option.
So sometimes you might have a question that you're like, if they answer this, then it's going to pop another question. Sometimes other will take care of that for you. Like you don't even have to call it other. You could call it something else.
Yeah.
There's a lot you can do with that.
And you have that other option with checkboxes, other, radios, other, and then select, and that's just the drop-down option, select and select other. And then select again, it's just a one, they can only pick one answer from these. So always good to know. There are other elements like email element that's important. You're usually capturing an email address on a form or a phone number. You can put in a number. Advanced HTML, this is great if you need to put maybe some instructions on your form. So this really isn't an element for the user to fill out. It's more for you to have a space with formatting that you can put instructional messages, into the body of the form as you're building that out. There are things like a signature block. I think that was up here. If you need, you can give users the ability to add their signature in. And then there's all those files. So file uploads, those are right here. These are file attachment PDFs. So any file attachment the user or the person filling the format won't see. This is a way for you to generate a PDF of their submission afterwards so that you can review data more easily, or you can send out an attachment to someone internally of the form submission. The file upload elements, those are more for the person filling out the form. So if you need them to send you, a specific type of file, you can add this file upload element to the form.
Oh, and
okay.
we're going to send this.
Okay, there's also the other one that I'll point out, the last one I'll point out is just the computed twig form. Our web forms are very smart. They have the ability to do math. They can add up a bunch of numbers that you've seen on some of the allocation review forms that Allison showed. So this one can be a little more complex. Please let us help you set up this form. We can show you how to do it. We can help set it up and get it in place so that if you need to have a form that adds something up or gives someone a total, it can do that. It's not anything extra. It just is a little complex. So we'd love to help you there.
It's code. If you want to learn code, I'll teach it to you. But ask us, we'll do it.
Okay, and then the last little section within this checklist is just some of the features. So as a reminder, all of the web form elements, you can make them required just by checking a box. You'll also see that required checkbox on the form element itself. So you can turn that requirement on or off on any element on the form. You also have conditions on every single form. So if it is a question where if they answer, yes or no, if they answer yes, they need to see a new question pop up. That is conditional logic, and you can set that on every single element. If you are new to web forms and you are just need a little guidance on conditionals, book with your account manager. They can show you how to set this up on your form. Okay, you do have the ability to add CAPTCHAs or security questions to your form. So if you get one that's being hit with a lot of spam, you can go ahead and add a CAPTCHA. That'll help cut down on that. All of your web form results are stored here as well in the results tab. So I think there was a question earlier that said, how do you sort your data? You can filter your data out by year. So you can download a CSV file of your data. You can filter by submission date. So if you're reusing the same form year over year, you're only pulling, the most current year data. And then we did mention that web forms are a component as well. So you do have the ability to add those web forms to any page on your site with that component element. It is a page component here. Once you add that, you'll be able to select from a drop-down the form you're looking to add to your page. So don't forget that that is also an option. Okay, let me pull this back up. I know we are running close to the end here. Okay, a feedback poll. For those of you that are on the call, we are, one each is in the process of redesigning our website logo. And we've gone through a couple variations of the logo, but we wanted to reach out to you guys that are on the call and get a little bit of feedback. They are all the same, except they are slightly different in their colors. We've got 4 options that we're going back and forth in. We'd love to get your feedback. Do you like the lime green that we have currently? Do you think that's too bright? We need to kind of go back to, steer away from that color. We've got 4 different options here. Allison can run our poll.
So the poll is going to be 1, 2, 3, or 4. So look at this right now and pick your favorite in your head. Ready? We want to know which number did you like the best? We like your feedback. We want you to be a part of this process because it's not a huge change to our logo, but having the little icon, I like it. It looks like a heart or a checkbox or whatever. But just curious as to which ones you guys kind of favor. We appreciate you taking just a moment to pick from them. And if the box is the questions in the way, you can move it and look at it. All right. Well, and we're wrapping up too, aren't we? Look at that. All right, I will end the poll and just definitely number 2 was the most popular from the ones I saw. But I'll let us keep going.
All right. As we wrap up here, just a reminder, if you are not on our newsletter, we send them out at least once a quarter. We try not to send it out too much, but we include some useful things in there like the checklist that we talked about today. So you can sign up for our newsletter at this link if you need. And then our blog has also been, I think, very helpful. We have Deborah. She's wonderful. She helps us pull together some really helpful information. So if you haven't checked out our blog, please do. Just in closing, all of our webinars, they're recorded. We post them to the webinars section in our support site. Give us 24 hours, we'll have this one added and you can go back and rewatch it. If you needed to request any of the web forms that we showed you today, you can do that by submitting a support ticket. And then these are the meeting links of our account managers. We encourage you to book time with them on a regular basis. We love to see what you're working on. And then just taking a look at what's upcoming for our webinar schedule. Next month, we are focusing on event and event registration. In March, we are going to be joined with a special guest from nonprofit Megaphone. They are all about Google Ad Grants, SEO, and content writing. So we're very excited to partner with them on a webinar. And then in April, we're going to do a little bit of spring cleaning, how to clean up your website, clean up some files, kind of clean house in the website, if you will. Okay, that is the end of our first webinar in 2025. So thank you so much for joining us. If you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A chat. Now we'll stick on for another minute or two.
I've already got meetings got booked while we were.
Good. I'm so glad. Our goal is always to have these be, helpful or give you new ideas of what you can do on the site. So that's a great sign.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. Have a good rest of the month. We'll see you guys in February.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.